Well, you can't make someone believe something they don't believe, but once you experience it, you'll believe it.
Right.
And everyone on earth wants to experience less suffering. I mean, Buddha talked about that. Every single ancient mystic and philosopher for time memorial has talked about that humans ultimately are seeking pleasure and seeking to avoid suffering.
Yeah.
And so even if a person doesn't believe that healing themselves is going to cause an outward ripple effect in which they will realize their connectivity to other beings and to the earth and thus become a more conscientious global citizen, they have an incentive to walk the healing path. And if they do, eventually they will start to experience those things.
Man, incentivizing it. Like, yeah, how do you think we incentivize it beyond, like, what is the incentive for the average person? Because look, I think we both know, like, those ayahuasca journeys you've talked about, and thank you for sharing that personal experience. Those are hard work, you know. Like, yeah, they can be amazing, but it's also like it takes some bravery and courage and hard work. And so, where is the incentive for the person who hasn't stepped into these spaces that maybe it would be good for them? Because it's not for everybody, but for those that it might be.
It's really hard. It's a question that I ask myself all of the time. I've been thinking about it a lot lately, particularly in regards to alcohol, because there's some people who are close to me who have gone into AA and I've seen their entire lives change because of it.
Wow.
At the same time, because of DoubleBlind, a lot of people send me beautiful products like herbal teas and mushroom capsules and all kinds of stuff. And they're really expensive. And something that I always come back to is like who can afford to spend $90 on a bottle of mushroom capsules? Well, maybe you could afford it if you weren't trying to escape your own suffering by spending a lot of money on booze.
Mm,
So it's just this, like I was saying, I think that it all comes back to people are trying to escape their suffering. You can do that through embarking on a journey that allows you to heal and to sustainably create an inner state that is actually going to give you what you're looking for, or you can continually try to escape your suffering through numbing yourself and through instant gratification. And so, how do we educate people and show them that these short-term solutions are actually just perpetuating what they're trying to escape?
yeah.
And I think that oftentimes, for me anyway, it comes down to, again, like kind of a visceral knowing rather than an intellectual understanding. And we published a piece in the first issue of DoubleBlind called The Function of Awe. And it was written by this reporter named Zachary Slobig, who's asking this question: okay, everybody knows we're in the midst of a climate crisis. Why is nobody doing anything about it? And his argument is that in order for people to be inspired to actually change their day to day behaviors, they need to have an experience of awe in nature. They need to actually viscerally feel the value of this earth. And I think something similar needs to happen in the realm of personal healing as well. That you can't just tell someone, hey, stop drinking, you're going to feel better. Or, we have to find a way to actually give people sort of an embodied experience of what this is, a taste of it, so that they want to
Yeah.
keep going. And for me, um, that's where trying to create accessible journeys comes in. And I know that that's a big motive for you behind your music is, you hope that some people come to your concert just to hear you play, and then they actually have an experience that transforms them in some way or gives them some window of insight into what a healing path might look like for them. And at DoubleBlind, we think about the same thing. So we obviously began with content, which is content, quote unquote, journalism, which is cerebral. But now we're doing these sort of what we're calling DoubleBlind journeys, which are basically just experiences virtually that you can have at home cannabis ceremonies, breath work, somatic integration with some of the most powerful people in our network. You don't have to go anywhere. You can do it from your house. You don't need access to drugs. And, in the hopes that, even just engaging in 90 minutes of breath work from your own bedroom is going to give you a glimpse into what this path might look like.
Yeah, absolutely. Felt experiences is I mean, it's really everything, because you can't argue with it. It's your experience. It's not something anyone's trying to convince you of, or there's no dogma. It's yours. That's 100% why I ended up on my path way back when, from a psilocybin experience in college. That was just an experience I had that literally blew my mind and heart. And I was just like, oh my God, there's more. And it set me on a path of, what is this? Where I had no teachers or anyone to say, go this way, or this is what that might have been. And I'm still on that path, but I agree with you that giving people opportunities and tools for that inspiration to find it on the inside is probably the only way. I mean, Journey Space, same idea, like accessibility, and I'm focused on the music, like through music in these different experiences. It's almost like a Trojan horse in a way. It's like things that are so common for us, like music, and it's like, well, if you just put this little angle on it, a little tweak, like a little more time or whatever it is, or intentionality, perhaps that's the doorway for you. But I agree that and there's something too about the group experience that we've known for a long time with like concerts and things, but kind of we were experimenting a bit with that at the festival. It was I never said it out loud. How do you pronounce the festival you
Oh
produced?
my gosh,
Mike
don't even get me going on how that name came about. And we jokingly no one
What
knows.
was it?
Your guess is as good as ours.
Mycologia?
Michael Agia. We jokingly on the double blind team call it Michael Agia.
It's a lot of
Um,
syllables. Yeah.
Sorry, my computer, the
Power?
charger. I need to hang on a second.
Sure thing. Mycologia. That was the Double Blind Festival in just north of LA, a couple hours, that Numinous was the sponsor of, that I did a performance at, I don't know, a couple months ago.
Okay. There we
You're
go.
back.
I'm back.
Well, what I was trying to say is, like, having opportunities for people to do that in the group experience is even another level of cohesion, like having that internal awareness and felt experience, and like, oh my God, it's not just me. Like, I mean, there's nothing I love more than doing those things, and then you have some kind of sharing circle the next day or something, and people start reporting like these shared, like, oh my God, everyone's thing was about ancestors essentially, or everyone's thing was about, there's these connective tissues of like the shared dream in a way. Is that something that you are perhaps going to do more of, or is that a priority for Double Blind? Is these events beyond digital offerings?
I mean, I would love to do events. I thought that the festival was really beautiful. It was such a great opportunity to meet our community in person. At the end of the day, I think being in person with people is just where it's at. But, events are
They're hard.
expensive
Yeah.
and they're really hard to do. And I mean, your site is the perfect example of that, right? Like we worked so hard to get everything right for that, and then the power just went out in the teepee. What are we gonna do? We're
At
in the
least it
middle of the
was at the
desert.
end. I mean, in some ways, when it's force majeure like that, you're like, well, I guess that's the end. It wasn't like I played for 10 minutes. I probably played for almost 2 hours or hour and a half.
Right.
But you're right. Like, when that happens, it happens. If it makes you feel any better, that's happened at festivals and things, where you think it shouldn't, and it does. So
That does make me feel better. I was like, oh my God, they must think we're so unprofessional. But it wasn't our fault that the power went out. Apparently, that's never happened at the venue before.
really, well, then it definitely is like, okay, that's the time. I mean, it wasn't like I was like gonna push through. I definitely took it as a sign. I think I was playing the flute when it happened, which is not amplified. So it's like, well, okay, I'll just play the flute some more and this will be our closing. So there you go. The mushrooms have decided this is the end.